Howdy SMITE fans, it's JMac. Week 2 of the SPL launched with a brand new patch to boot. 8.9 came out, meaning an entirely new shift to the meta. And how did the pro players adjust to that? Well, let's find out together in this week's SPL Recap. Let's start things off with our first match of the weekend, the Camelot Kings versus the Solar Scarabs. Captain Twig goes on an 8-kill streak on Hoon bots, sealing game number 1 for the Kings. But it's not just the assassins back in the meta. Uller is here, and Stuart showed the Kings just how strong this god is. An early 2 kills in the dual lane for the Scarabs stamps an early win in the book for them in game number 2. And the Scarabs jumped the gun a little early in game 3, but it's the Camelot Kings who swept an early 14-minute deicide. And from there, the Scarabs could not recover, and the Kings take the set 2-1. Set number 2 between the Olympus Bolts and the Jade Dragons will round out the day. Game number 1 starts off with a battle of the objectives, but not their own objectives. This is a game of objective steals between both teams, bouncing the lead back and forth. However, it's Panda Cat at the end of the day who pops off, and Final K's damage is just too much, and ultimately they take game number 1 for the Dragons. And game 2 started off slow. First blood didn't even happen until 10 minutes in. But the control was all for the Dragons. Better farming and even better fighting pushes the Olympus Bolts on their back foot. And in a play of desperation, they try and take an Oni Fury, but the Dragons put them down, closing game number 2 with a Panda Cat quadra kill and the set 2-0. Jumping right into day 2, we start off with the Oni Warriors facing off against the Solar Scarabs. In game number 1, Scream is able to get a nice early first blood, but things quickly fall apart for the Scarabs. They maintain early objective play, but it's the Warriors who are controlling the team fights. And a bait around the Fire Giant inevitably leads to a Scarabs wipe. The Warriors take game 1, and in game number 2, Nika was able to get a solo kill against SOT not even 2 minutes in. This allows for Vote to sit comfortably in the duo lane and sit in the back line to free cast for not just the first time, but for the second time this set. And the Warriors are able to take it 2-0. But if there is any set to watch this week, you'll want to watch our second set of Saturday, an in-studio matchup between the Atlantis Leviathans and the Jade Dragons. In game number 1, the Jade Dragons have complete control of the map, and they're able to hold on to that control until a Gold Fury fight at 16 minutes goes south. The Leviathans take not only the fight, but the Gold Fury and the momentum of the game. The Dragons, with no answer back, fall in game number 1. Game 2 starts up, and this time it's the Leviathans who start strong early on, with Zapman forcing a fight at the red buff and picking up a couple of kills. But in similar style to game 1, it's a fight around the Oni Fury that swings the door open for the opposing team. The Dragons are able to deicide the Leviathans, and a Fire Giant immediately after turns the game around and ties up the set 1-1. When it comes down to game 3, it's all Panatom. He sets the pace for an early game 3 with first blood against Sam for Soccer. The Dragons have absolutely no answer back. They struggle to maintain relevance against the Leviathans, and they fall flat, with the Leviathans taking the set 2-1. On the final day of the week, we start off with the Olympus Bolts against the Valhalla Valkyries. The Valkyries, they finally get their chance on the new 8.9 patch, but when it comes down to the drafting phase, the Valkyries just give up too many priority picks. Yamoja and Tiamat makes it through both games, and coupled with Lasbra's high aggro jungle picks, it proved to be too much for the Valkyries to handle. Despite the solid objective steals in game number 2 from the Valkyries, it only delayed the inevitable, and the Bolts are able to take the set 2-0. Closing out the weekend is a set between the Camelot Kings and the Tartarus Titans. The Titans are able to get an early start thanks to the help of Layers and Paul, but it's the dual lane that slowly begins to whittle away. The Kings are able to punish this set pick heavily and run away with the late game, taking game number 1. Game number 2 kicks off with not just 1, but 2 explosive double kills in the dual lane. 1 for Cyclone Spin, 1 for Netrioid. The game is a stalemate battle until one misstep by the Titans at the Kings tier 2 and solo spells doom for the Titans. Big Man Ting slams home a quadra kill, and the Kings cut off yet another win streak, toppling the Titans 2-0. And thus concludes Week 2 of the SPL. It's only the Atlantis Leviathans who remain undefeated as we move in towards Week 3, with 4 other teams now sitting at 2-1. Who's going to come out on the top of the standings for Week 3? Well, you're going to have to tune in to find out. But if you ever miss it, don't worry, I'll always have you covered in our SPL recaps.